Chris Liss, I took a look at your high stakes $350 entry draft, and man, I have some questions for you. I mean, how did you feel about this draft? Let me put it up on the board so anyone listening, will give you the link for this, but I got some serious questions for you here, Chris Liss.
All right. I love it. I feel great about it. I made some errors later in the draft because I was streaming and I was like,
yeah, that's hard to
trying to smoke a cigar while streaming. And then I was, it's my first draft. So I was a little less prepared. A lot of people do like a million best balls before they do these, but so I made like two or three errors, and I had a little bit of bad luck on one pick, but I like it. I think this team could win the whole thing. I feel good about it.
See, I'm glad you said that, because so it's not necessarily like the players. I like all the players, love Chan. You were team one in this draft right here. Yeah. It's just structurally, and I was just surprised because you talk about this all the time. Like, there is a vanilla cookie cutter way to draft in the NFFC that works. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to get the right players, you have to get the right pickups, but it's, getting those three lock and load, never having to guess three receivers is probably the quote cheat code to the NFFC.
Yeah, but it also matters where you pick, right? So like, you don't want to just have like the weakest version of the generic draft because your draft slot only afforded you the weak version of that, whereas other people are going to have a strong version of that. And then how effective is it during the playoff run, right? Like maybe, if your team has more upside, like in DFS, sometimes, if you have a team that stacks like the Marlins or something and it finishes last or, in the bottom 10%, that's a better play than stacking the chalk where you have to get everything perfectly right. Now, Marlins is probably an extreme example, but, stacking sort of a league average offense that nobody's going to stack. So, there's some game theory involved too. But I actually just think this team is good. Like, I look at it, I'm like, this team has just so much upside. And like, who cares about downside? Only 2 teams in the league make the playoffs anyway.
Yeah, I just, again, you start off with McCaffrey. That's the chalk pick. And then Chan, no one's going to deny that he's got, week winning. Like I think he put up
league winning upside. I mean, that Chan averaged almost 8 yards a carry in that offense.
Yeah.
He's worked on it. He's gained a little weight, a little muscle. He's worked on his route running. He's in year 2. Mostert, I mean, it would be a miracle if Mostert has the type of workload that he did. Yeah, they drafted Jalen Wright, but I think Chan's going to get the Mostert workload from last year, 180 carries and, 50, 55 catches at incredible efficiency. And, Tua doesn't run in the ball in the end zone. So, if they're going to score a touchdown, it's going to be Mostert, Chan, or Wright on the ground. And the offense is going to be one of the top paced offenses in the league. So, sure, he could get hurt again. That's always a possibility. But, McCaffrey could get hurt.
Well, if Chan didn't get hurt the year before, he'd be a first-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like he's healthy now. And if you can predict injury so well that he's going to get hurt, then don't take him. But if you can't predict injury so well that he's going to get hurt, then he should. You're right. He should be going where Taylor and Barkley are going. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Or at least Jahmyr Gibbs. He's the same as Jahmyr Gibbs, basically.
Yeah. All right. So then in the third round here, this is you've taken a stance on Stefon Diggs. You get him at the end of the third round because it's third round reversal. Liss's team won, and it's it's funny because like you've talked about this on a lot of different like football podcasts during the year and on the radio, that you get into your bubble and then you listen to like another bubble and they have completely different views and you can't even believe it because they're so different. Diggs is one of those players where, I mean, just any social media or things that come on my For You page or, Nico Collins is like the clear number one. And then this is what my social media is telling me. And that Diggs is maybe the number 2, and then you take him ahead of Nico Collins in this draft.
I don't know.
He went a couple picks after.
Way after, because it's third round reversal. So
right. Okay.
In my 16 picks after.
Right. In my draft, he went. Nico went first, and Diggs went. It was the other way around, basically.
Okay, but the point is, I got Diggs at cost. I mean, that's his ADP is about 36, so I didn't even have to reach for him. But when I made my initial cheat sheet, Diggs was my number 9 overall receiver. Diggs, the thing about Diggs, and I've kind of gotten off the DK Metcalf types who are just ridiculous athletes. He's not very good at football, right? He's not like a route runner. Diggs is the opposite. Diggs is a great football player. Diggs is a guy who's like one of the best route runners and guy who knows how to get open in the entire league. And for the first half of last year, he was having a career year. I mean, like a career for him is a huge, huge year. And he still finished with like 108 catches. He had a big fall off in the second half, but they switched offensive play callers. and they weren't throwing him the ball. And he started bitching about it, and they got rid of him. But he's 30, and the guys who age poorly to me are the guys who are a little bit bigger. The Andre Johnsons. I think Hopkins is a little bit bigger. Diggs is like 6 feet 190. I don't think at 30 he's going to fall off a cliff. He certainly, it doesn't really make sense that he would fall off a cliff somehow mid-season, and it just would coincide with a new coordinator calling the plays differently. I think Diggs is the alpha. I think Nico Collins is a good player, better athlete, bigger, faster, or same speed, but bigger. But I think that when, Diggs gets into camp and Stroud is like, holy shit, this is the guy that gets open every single play. He's the alpha. He's going to get 100 catches. And if I were to bet on one quarterback to lead the league in passing attempts and passing yards, it would probably be Stroud.
Yeah, and we know that Diggs is not shy about telling his quarterback and his coach that he wants the ball. They knew what they were getting. They gave up a premium pick, the Texans did, the second-round pick, and they wiped away the extra years on Diggs' contract. They said, we're going to give a second-round pick, and we're going to make you a free agent next year so you can go get another bite at the apple. So
he's getting $22.5 million this year. He's not doing that to get 65 catches. I think he's the alpha. I think Nico Collins would be fine to be T. Higgins. Right. That's his role. And then Tank Dell is going to take the top off, and he weighs 165 pounds. And they didn't have the depth last year. Collins was banged up at times. They have Noah Brown had a big role last year. Now they can put these guys in their proper slots. Diggs is the every down, get open alpha receiver. Collins is the T. Higgins, a really solid outside, size speed guy. And then Tank Dell is your, decoy, but also if they don't go for it, he's going to catch a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah, like that, almost that Will Fuller role, right? Where Tank Dell could have his big game, but he's going to have they're going to be like every third week or, nothing. That makes sense to me.
Tank Dell's good. They could give him more targets, but he's 165 pounds and you just never see a guy like that get, 130 targets.
Yeah. Now, this is the problem with talking to you. By the way, it's a good problem to have, is that you are very persuasive and you make a good argument, because I think I made a video earlier in the draft season that only idiots are taking Stefon Diggs. And now I think I need to go back into some underdog drafts and get him. And I have another NFFC draft coming up. I think especially if it's the end of the third round.
Think about that, right? If the whole sentiment on social media is only idiots draft this guy, and yet this is where he falls down to the end of the third, where he's a no-brainer first-round pick the last 3 years. And now he's on even a more pass-heavy team, a better situation, better weather, throughout the end of the year, playing softer defenses. This to me is such a buy, right? I think he should be ahead of Olave for sure, ahead of Devontae Adams, who definitely is a risk of, dropping off the cliff age-wise. I think, right, he's in that Marvin Harrison, Drake London. That's where he belongs, that tier. And it's a complete steal, unless he no longer knows how to play football. But again, this is a guy who's really good at football. That's his biggest skill. And he's also an alpha. Jarvis Landry ran a 4.7 and managed to get 150 targets from 3 teams just because he was such an alpha. And they brought this guy in. CJ Stroud is going to go to him. He's going to be the guy.
All right. Well, you mentioned Marvin Harrison before we get back to your team here. I think it's crazy that I just don't have the stones to take a rookie wide receiver, even with his pedigree. It's with one of the first couple picks of the second round when there's sure things there. Now I know,
he lacks his dad's killer instinct. That was his comment.
Very good.
Snarky 150.
Very good. Very good. By the way,
you saw the Snarky 150, right? You saw that already.
Of course. Yeah, no, I have to admit, some of them I didn't get. I was going to ask for clarification, but as usual, they're belly laughs. I mean, I don't know how you keep up the, every year refreshing it, but it does work. Even just the ones that are Bijan Robinson is Tyler Allgeier's backup and,
George Brittle. I use George Brittle every year. Sometimes I keep it the same.
It doesn't get old though. I'll even steal that joke from you if I'm talking about George Kittle on a podcast, and then I'll give you a bibliography footnote on that one. That one, those are timeless classics. The George Brittle.
George Brittle. I was the Aaron Hernandez jokes. I only worked in one Aaron Hernandez joke this time. I said Kelsey's Pfizer ads killed more people than Aaron Hernandez, but if you got to work Aaron Hernandez in, and that joke truly never gets old. The fact that the GOAT quarterback, the GOAT coach, the GOAT dynasty had a guy who literally murdered people on the team that they paid $50 million to or whatever they paid him is just one of the classic things about the NFL of all time. I mean, that can never get old because the absurdity of that fact that he was in the huddle with the GOATs, while murdering people on the side is just too much.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can see like the behind the scenes, like the Bill Belichick stuff. Like they weren't sure if they should draft him, and yeah, I mean, no one thought this level though for Aaron Hernandez. And then also, I love the in the Snarky 150, which is basically your rankings with Snarky comments next to them. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's the Aaron Rodgers. We know he won't die of myocarditis.
Yeah, and he's tripping balls. That's another one. The thing is, the thing that by the way, we're doing this video. Is this live on Twitter right now? Okay.
Yeah, live on Twitter.
I should repost it. But the markets are crashing right now. Like this yen carry trade has blown up the world markets, and you have like,
and we're talking about Stefon Diggs.
Yeah. I mean, this is like people are like defenestrating right now. People on Wall Street defenestrating. The Bitcoin OGs don't care. They've seen this kind of shit before many times. But it's just this is a apocalyptic sell-off. We'll see what happens at the end. I think they're going to print like crazy, and this is the tide going out before the tsunami of money comes back in. Just like during COVID, everyone thought the world was collapsing and sold, and then when it was at the bottom, they were just like print, and they just hit the money printer. But this is some serious shit going down right now while we're doing this.
Yes, but I mean, we've been through so much, and like it's always okay. I mean, maybe that's like a naive view, like a nuclear.
Bertrand Russell, you know that Bertrand Russell quote. He's like, it's like jumping off the Empire State Building, counting the windows as you go down, and when you get to 80, saying, "So far, so good."
Right. I mean, a nuclear bomb can go off like in Washington, D.C., and I'd be like, yeah, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. It'll be fine by the time it gets here. What are you supposed to do?
When your neighbor outside's eating you see him eating the neighbor down, and you're like, oh, shit,
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, there's nothing you can do except, take care of your finances, take care of your health, and, draft a good fantasy football team. I mean, what else can you really possibly do? But there's shit going down. This is getting more and more crazy what's going on in the last few months.
All right, and we'll save some time at the end to keep going with it. But if anything breaks, we'll break in with that as well. Is that fair? Because
it's breaking now. But if there's anything like somebody,
because more disastrous than the Japanese yen and Bitcoin falling and the earth ending is some of these picks, man.
I'm ready to defend them. I think I successfully defended A-Chain and Diggs, but keep coming.
Right. By the way, you see this from our guy KU Steve. He wants to find a dumb money league like this. I'm telling you this, even though listen, we don't know what the results are going to be. That is the sentiment list that some of these picks here were a little off. And I know you don't mind that. Like you welcome that.
Wait. Even if you think my draft is dumb, how could it be a dumb money league? Was there somebody missed? Did we not take Bijan Robinson in this draft? I mean, if my team's bad, someone else's team is good. What do you mean you're going to find a dumb money league like this? You're going to find a league like this and get your ass kicked because somebody else must have a good team. It's not like we missed somebody.
Right.
No one drafted Bijan and Breece Hall in this draft. That's a dumb money league. How can there be a dumb money league? That doesn't make any sense.
I have one of the most common comments that we get, like when we post any like draft content, is, I want to join this league next year. Like that's you can look and see what the most common comments are, and like the algorithm, if they're even similar, will show you like and that is always the one that says I want in, and it's usually the Vegas league when I post video about that. So, all right.
What's funny too is like, you don't know what's going to happen in football. You're not going to win every one of your leagues. You don't know which team's going to win. You're acting like, your team's going to lose. Like you have no fucking idea.
I know. And it's also that and Twitter player take stuff is just off the wall these days.
I saw there's some terrible political takes from football Twitter. I was reading some of these guys. Yeah. They're like, Clinton was the most honest president in my lifetime. I'm like, Clinton? You mean the guy really? The guy didn't know it depends what the meaning of the word is? I mean, dude, these are people. It's fine. I think free speech, 100%, say whatever you want, be as stupid as you want. You have absolute right to do that, and I have no right to prevent you. But this is like, people who see Terry Bradshaw recommend something on Sunday and who know nothing. Oh, my sleeper is Jahmyr Gibbs. I have two sleepers, Jahmyr Gibbs and Marvin Harrison. I think they could be really good this year. I think they could come on. Like, you don't know anything about you don't know anything about anything, and you're talking about this stuff. Like, it's fine. Again, I don't mind. People want to talk about fantasy football who know nothing about the NFL, who watch Terry Bradshaw and think he like has an angle or something. That's fine, but it is just sad how bad it is.
I love that Terry Bradshaw is the guy you use for like the symbol of just like dumb, right? As far as,
but that's how people, it's the Gilman amnesia, right? Like, like it was like, I remember in 2015, I use this example all the time. There was like an article on the DFS scandals going on, and they were like, DraftKings and FanDuel, it's like somebody had to put a bag of cash in an alley, and they were like conflating it with like illegal gambling, just like complete like bookie gambling and DraftKings. And there was a scandal. A guy cheated. He saw the percentage owned and he cheated, and it was a real scandal. But they covered it so badly in the New York Times. The New York Times is a joke, but I didn't know it was a joke then. But I read this article and I was like, are you kidding me? This is totally factually false. And then you go and read about the Middle East in the New York Times. You think, oh, that must be, I'm going to learn something about the Middle East from the same paper that the thing I actually knew about, they got completely wrong. And it's called Gelman amnesia. You know that they're wrong about the thing that you actually have inside information about. But the thing that you have no information about, you then, forget that and treat it like it's actual news. And I feel like, that's kind of the state that we're in right now.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that, and the DraftKings example is one of the best. But I've read something. I'm trying to think what it was. I do basketball refereeing, and I saw some nutless sort of article about how terrible refereeing, and I was like, oh, if they're getting this wrong, and again, that's such a small thing, but I'm like, it was like a featured piece on like adults and youth sports and refereeing, and like none of it was accurate. It was all perception.
From experience that it's bullshit, and. Right. I mean, they can't even get that right. Just assign somebody to get the fucking story right. Everything's agenda driven. Everything, they're lazy. They don't like do the work. It is just so funny how bad it is.
Yep. Back to your draft for a moment here, and we go back and forth. Sure. And by the way, people said this is their favorite fantasy football conspiracy theory show. I thought that was a funny comment.
Well, I mean, conspiracy theory just means, realizing that the explanation given is so piss poor, and they're not even trying. Like, oh, 2 cameras malfunctioned and 2 guards decided not to show up for Epstein's suicide. and so the only logical thing is to theorize like what actually happened there. Instead, there's no such thing as, it's not even, it's like, if you're not theorizing, you're not trying, because they're not trying. They're not trying to make the explanation plausible. Oh, there was a guy in the roof for 3 minutes and the professionals in the Secret Service there was some sort of miscommunication, I guess. They just didn't figure out. They just thought it was someone else's problem. Like, there's no plot. They're not even trying to make a story that like adds up, that you would like be like, wait, what happened? And so it's like you have no choice but to theorize, right? And the thing is, like, theories may end up being true or false, but if you're not theorizing, you're not trying. You're not trying to actually sense make about the facts of the world.
Well, even 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the word conspiracy theory was a bad word. I don't think it's a bad word anymore. I think like when I hear someone's a conspiracy theory person, like, I'm interested. Oh, it's probably a little bit more slanted towards what could have happened. Like, you remember the word Alex Jones? That was a joke 25 years ago. Now you're like, man, the guy was right about a lot of stuff.
Oh, I mean, dude, do not look into Pizzagate, by the way. If you want to stay normie, right? Like, I was like, Pizzagate, that's like the most ridiculous conspiracy I've ever seen, right? That's preposterous. Do not look into that. Do not go.
Don't Google it.
Do not. Well, Google will probably bury it. But although I did see something on YouTube, but I mean, look, I don't know what the explanation is for that, but it's not good. It may not be the one that was offered, but it's not good. So,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. And by the way, if you want to hear more of this stuff, Chris Liss's podcast is a must listen. And by the way, the Chris Liss podcast, I love the new cover art. By the way, remember,
Sasha made that with the broken light bulb. She made that.
Getting better.
$8 for that. And so she said, "You want it?" I said, "I don't know." She said, $8. It's $5. I said, "Well, I don't know. I got to think about it." She goes, "It's going up to $8." I said, "Okay, I'll take it before it goes up any higher." But
just to give everyone value, Sasha's is how old is she now? 12-year-old
12-year-old
daughter, right? So just to give everyone value and understand where it's coming from. So your own daughter's charging, because I was very critical of the art before I knew she was making it, and then as soon as I found out an 11-year-old,
you're such an asshole. You're such a dick. I can't believe you would say that. This kid's trying her hardest to create something. Destroy her dreams like that, Alan.
There you go.
No, she's good, and she's way better than me.
Like this comment right here, Chris Liss is going to get RotoWire kicked off YouTube.
Hey, it's all Alan's fault at this point. I'm not responsible. I'm just myself. So
you're going to get us suppressed. We'll see. I mean, like the video and help us get more of these theories out to people. That definitely helps. Algorithmically. But anyway, and also on your podcast, you started 90% of them with "this is going to be a short one," regardless of of how long it is.
There's no correlation between. Sometimes I actually have to go pick up Sasha from school or something, but unless it's that, sometimes I get going. Very few people have this ability that I have, which is to talk by themselves for an hour and 10 minutes uninterrupted without stopping or really pausing very long. Not that that's like a rare thing. Like most people, they just can't do it, you know? And so you never know when I get started.
I always say, even if whether you like, if you listen to Sirius XM radio, whether you like Jeff Ratcliffe or not, the guy is a talented talker. He could talk for an hour by himself. Like there's not many people who could do it.
Yeah, it's not like most people need some sort of back and forth, you know. So
yeah, I'm one of them. One of them. All right, back to your draft here. By the way, 450 people watching live. They're loving the conspiracy theory zigzag with football. We'll see if they start dropping off when we talk about football. We'll start talking Pizzagate again. So
I just want to say something though. It's a little annoying. I mean this earnestly. Like, I do think you should investigate everything. And I actually, believe it or not, I looked into this Pizzagate thing that I thought was a joke. And I was like, there's something very disturbing there. But I really strongly reject the frame that the crazy people are the conspiracy theory people. I think the crazy people are the people trying to hold on to the narrative that they know is a lie. Somebody I know went out to dinner with a friend, and they were saying, well, you know, we're not the bad guys. I mean, we don't jail journalists, like, you know, blah, blah, blah. And my friend was like, have you heard of Julian Assange?
Right.
And then the woman was like, oh yeah, of course. Right. But and then she's like, oh, you're right. But the next step should have been, wow, I just said something that was total bullshit in service of the narrative that we don't jail journalists. That's just a narrative that she had heard. And she pushed it, and then was called out on it, but was smart enough to realize, oh, what I said was totally false a minute ago, but never took the next step and said, why am I saying things that are totally false that I know are false, right? Why am I just relaying narratives that I heard on my TV or that a talking point that I heard that I know are false? And what I would answer is, and she didn't look into it beyond that, what else do I believe that I'm false? And I'm just saying that mindset is pathological, that these people who are holding on to like everything's on the level. COVID was just a once in a century pandemic. They tried their best. Vaccine saved millions of lives. Like the people holding on to things that are just obviously false. When your quad-vax friend got COVID for the 7th time and they're having a horrible time of it, right? You're like, wait, this isn't working, but you still talk the talking points. And I love the term.
I love the term quad vax. I hadn't heard that one.
Whatever. Quad vax friends got the worst COVID ever, like on their deathbed from it. And you're like, thank God for the vaccine, and you're talking about this as if, oh, I didn't catch it. It must've been because I took the booster, and you're like, what are you talking about? All your friends got it. That doesn't make any sense. But to me, the pathology, right, is, and I want to make this very clear, and I'm doing this in my social relations, and it's great because I'm just not dealing with people. I'm not going into the frame where it's like, oh, the normal thing is to be in the narrative, and the crazy thing is to theorize about this obvious bullshit, what's actually really going on, which none of us are sure, right? We don't know geopolitically what's really going on. We don't know anything besides your refereeing and my, experience in the fantasy, and things that we do, we know, but the things that we hear about, we speculate. But the point is, if you're not speculating, if you're not questioning this obviously ridiculous lie, then you are pathological. And I'll take one step further. There was a guy, Matthias Desmond, a psychologist, talked about mass formation psychosis. They said when people have too much stress, the pandemic and all the lies and all the political drama that's happened, they don't run naked through the street like they're on a manic depressive episode. They actually, the psychosis is they narrow their worldview so stringently in these tight parameters where everything outside is a conspiracy theory and everybody else is crazy if they question it. And I see this in people. They literally know that Julian Assange was arrested by the US or prosecuted by the US, and they still are like, we don't jail journalists, and they try to, and they know what they're saying isn't true, but they still believe it somehow. And this to me is a psychosis. And so, I really, I'm fine with saying, well, I'm going to entertain theories that there's powerful factions conspiring in secret or making plans in secret to do nefarious things. But I'm not going to own it as, haha, you're the conspiracy theorist. Fuck that, right? Like to me, the person living in reality trying to deal with sense making, and the people who are trying to push you or me or somebody into like, oh, you're the conspiracy theorist. Those to me are the crazy people, because they are literally not facing undeniable facts in front of their face, and they're doing yeoman's gymnastics in their minds in order to keep up this narrative, which is just crumbling in front of their faces. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, I'm just picturing the person that clicks on the video that says about the fantasy draft, and then all of a sudden is like ready to like go to war right? Like, it's
Hey, I mean, sometimes
there is a market. There is a market for football and quote conspiracy theory, or just
I think it's your reality theory.
Reality theory.
I mean, conspiracy is reality. I mean, did we not conspire to pretend there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and then destroy that country? Of course, that we conspired. Powerful elements conspire. If you don't think that, you're just stupid. If you don't think that powerful people don't meet in secret to plan things that they don't announce to the public, I mean, that's just stupid. So, I call this reality theory, theories about reality. And it's like science. Science is not settled or trust the science. Science is theories, right? You propose a theory of how some phenomena works, and then you test it empirically. And if it's false, you drop the theory. And if it's true, you adopt it. And, maybe this injection isn't very good for people and doesn't stop the spread. Was that theory? How did that theory go? Maybe the virus leaked from the lab right next to where it broke out. How's that theory going? How did that theory test out empirically? That conspiracy, it's a reality theory. That's all it is. And
that's fair. I just want to make that clear. I don't even know how to transition out of that. I mean, it's
if you need a transition, Alan, that's your business. I'm trying to pick up the show. Okay,
not code for anything. Code for anything. Yeah, right. We have actually people are into the spirit of the quote conspiracy theory, the reality theory. Somebody trying to swing it back over to football said the conspiracy theory is that Saquon Barkley is now on the Eagles to steal tush push from Jalen Hurts. That's an interesting conspiracy theory.
I mean, that's a theory, and that could be. I mean, I don't know why they would do that, though. I mean, you could. All right, you need 10 blockers, one ball carrier, right? So you want it to be the guy under center getting pushed, right? You don't want him to hand off and do that, right? That's bad. So, could Barkley line up under center and do that? Probably.
Barkley's going to get some rushing touchdowns that might have otherwise gone to Jalen Hurts. He's
I don't know. I mean, inside the one.
He's a super back. He's a super back.
Inside the two, that play has like a 98%, it's like never fails. So it's like, why would you? It would just, if the second Barkley gets stuffed, they're going to be like, dude, what are you doing?
Jason Kelsey, damage to. I hear what you're saying, though. It's like, do it. They already said they're going to keep with the tush push, right? Like, the fact that even a bunch of cowards wanted to ban that play is ridiculous. It's like, it's dangerous. Everything's dangerous in football. What do you think, by the way, when they're talking about like getting the danger out of football? What do you think about this new kickoff rule? Did you watch it, or at least
no? What is the rule? What is the rule?
All right. So basically the kicker kicks off from the 35, and instead of the kicking team running down full speed and, crashing in, so the kicking team tacklers and the blockers are 5 yards apart from each other on the opposite 35. So, and when they kick off the ball, those guys can't start, blocking and trying to tackle each other until the ball is caught. So you remember where they used to get the running start kick, they're running down and then it would just be all these collisions. Kicker kicks off. The offense and the defense have to stay 5 yards apart. When the ball is received, then they could start playing. So it basically eliminates the running start.
Yeah, this seems kind of stupid. I think you're going to have problems where a guy gets a kickoff return touchdown and they're going to say, nope, his blocker started blocking before he touched the ball or something like that. And then people are going to get super annoyed by that.
Right. Well, they said there's going to be some things in the beginning until they get used to it. And the other thing is that they have to kick it between I think there's something called the green zone. I think it's they have to kick it between the 20 and the goal line, or else the team automatically gets it at the 40.
Oh, okay.
So it has to be, you have to put it in play. Like if you kick it out of the end zone, it's the same.
It's like out of bounds. Yeah.
Right.
Kind of like that. I think that would be enough. That would be enough, right? Like,
the idea.
Why do you need the other piece? I think that's actually a good rule. Like, just drilling it out of the end zone. Why then just get rid of the kickoff and just start on the 20?
Yeah. Right? If it lands in the green zone, then rolls out, then they get it at the 20.
Okay, fine. But there's gonna be kickers who like squib it down to in the
green zone.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of like skill.
Well, you can't squib, because if you squib, it'll hit the blockers. Because remember, the blockers and the tackling team are on the opposite 35 of the kicker, lined up, ready to start playing.
Yeah, you can't really squib. I don't know. Unintended consequences. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
And they've also taken the onside kick out. You can't onside kick unless you declare an onside kick, and it can only be in. It can only be in the fourth.
No surprise.
No surprise, and it can only be in the.
Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Oh, because of the way the blockers are set up makes it really screwed up for them. So they have to It's just too much. I agree. I think all they had to do was say out of the end zone is 40-yard line, and that would solve all the problems. Just that.
Right, but the whole idea was to not have the running start with the kicking team.
Dude, I mean, it's the NFL. I mean, come on.
I hear you.
Well,
and then ultimately,
just make a two-hand touch if you want to do that.
Yep. And then the other theory is that because there's going to be less collisions, that maybe like real players will start returning. You might see like Jalen Waddle and Deebo Samuel, players that are good.
I see. They're trying to get like more, like the elite players to return.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not bullish on that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't like it. So yeah, next time you're like, I know you don't go on a lot of social media stuff, but just Google there was like 3 returns. None of them were that exciting in the Hall of Fame game last week. So yep. Can I ask you a couple more questions about your draft?
Yeah, obviously. I've defended the first 3 picks.
Yeah, we're up to Sam Laporta in the 4th. So now this one, so Sam Laporta normally goes to the beginning of the 3rd round, and that's where I would have a problem with it. You got him at the beginning of the 4th. So this is like the 4th round is where the elite tight ends go. I think that in the past, Chris Liss, we've seen all the tight ends, like the tight end 1 and 2 would always go like in the 1st and 2nd round. Now the tight ends get pushed down because not so much because of like their skill, but I don't think anybody is going to be counted on to lap the field like Travis Kelce or Pete Gronk or Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, there's just a lot of depth, I think, at tight end. Sometimes it seems that way, and then there isn't. But, Laporte is just in such a good situation, right? There's no real number 2 receiver. It's Amon-Ra on him.
You don't like Jameson Williams?
I mean, he's fine, but he just seems to me like all promise, no delivery. Like just a guy that, oh, look at him. He's drafted so early, and he was hurt, and then he's suspended, and he showed a sign, and he's working hard. I don't know. I think it's unlikely once you get this far into the league that you haven't like really blown up yet. Yep. And I just think Laporta is the red zone guy. Amon-Ra is, not that big. And I think that's, he's
right.
probably
Laporta's a good pick. I even put that on the cover of the thumbnail. Okay. I said Laporta's good. Now, CJ Stroud, you got him on the 5-6 turn. The only reason I put him as a bad pick, and I know you were pairing him with Diggs there, I'm assuming, and I know you're bullish on him as well, but he's been going like in the 7th round. But I guess you wouldn't have got him because you have to take him on 5-6 because at the end of the 7th, he wouldn't have been there. Was that the...
Well, no, I pull up the ADP in the last 5 or 6 days before, 10 drafts worth of ADP, and he was going around 6-4 or something like that. Okay. I'm sorry, a little bit after, just a few picks after me. So like, I know exactly where these guys are going when I pick them, and I'm willing to jump a guy a few spots who could have made it back in the 7th. It's always possible, but it was very unlikely. And yeah, I wanted to pair him with Diggs. I think CJ Stroud, I said, is going to lead the league in attempts and yards. And he's a great quarterback. He reminds me of Joe Montana, just the way he kind of not really a scrambler, but can buy time and just like float the ball to his guy, to the open guy. And so, I feel like I got like a top 3 or 4 quarterback. I got the top tight end. I got the top running back, in the league, and I've got, the second running back is a top, 10 running back. And then I've got, in my opinion, the 9th best receiver. So I love this start.
Yep. So this is where, again, once you get out of the core of your draft, and by the way, you took CJ Stroud ahead of Lamar Jackson and ahead of Anthony Richardson, which are 2 guys I have ranked ahead, but I could see it, if you're,
I have those guys ranked the same, basically. This is a 6 point passing TD. And Jackson lost weight. I'm a little nervous about his durability. It's been a lot of years of taking a beating, and he lost some weight. And then there's Richardson, who, boomer bot could be the number QB1 easily, could just not.
No, that's QB1's reserved for somebody else.
Oh yeah, QB1, right? Yeah.
Zach Wilson.
He'd have to do a lot of off the field work to catch up.
All right, so this is where it's interesting. So Ladd McConkey, you take the rookie in the beginning of round 6. Now, okay, he could be the Keenan Allen replacement, very Cooper Kupp-esque, but
very Adam Thielen, Julian Edelman type. It's
but with this injury to Herbert. Now, I know Herbert was not injured when you did this draft, but any concerns there?
I mean, it's not great. I mean, imagine if you took CeeDee Lamb and and then Dak Prescott got hurt and you're like, that was a bad pick to take CeeDee. I mean, I didn't know,
Right. Well, here you go. This is really the big problem area for me is that the wide receivers are weak and you've told me this. I use this theory when I talk about fantasy football strategy. It's just much easier to find replacement value, like good running backs on the waiver wire, and it's very difficult to find wide receivers. So that's why we take our wide receivers early in the NFFC, because it's so deep. The waiver wire pool is so thin, and that you can find, like, I mean, Kyron Williams is the ultimate example, but you can find like the Khalil Herberts to fill in 2-3 weeks, where if you run out of depth at the wide receiver position, that, it might feel good when you're taking Achane and McCaffrey, but when you're starting Cortland Sutton, Rashid Shaheed, and Roma Dunze, who's a rookie and number 3 on his own team, that's where it starts to feel a little tough.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have tougher decisions when you start receivers, no doubt. The receivers have smaller samples. They may get 8 targets or 7 targets, and it's going to take a few games before they have 20 targets, whether they're really, getting looks. Whereas a running back in one game can get 15 targets and the guy ahead of him can be hurt. And you're like, okay, I already know I can start this guy, right? So it's much harder to decide with receivers. Even if they have a good game, you might need 2 good games, to know. But I'll give you the counter argument. I mean, Diggs to me is an alpha. He's going to get 100-ish catches if he stays healthy. And I think McConkey is the clear one. I mean, Josh Palmer is just a guy. And Quentin Johnson was like the worst player in the league last year. And then
he's not playing. It's TJ Shark.
TJ Shark, I mean, is like, he's been around forever, and he had like one kind of breakout in Jacksonville one year. I mean, these are nobodies, right? This is like so easy. This is candy from a baby. He's going to get 85, 90 targets if he and Herbert are healthy. It's just the only game in town. They don't even have a good tight end, right? This is it.
I would say 85, 90 catches, not targets.
No, right? That's what I mean. That's what I meant to say, catches.
Yeah.
And they don't, they don't have Austin Eckler. So this is going to be he could get 100 catches. This is easy. To me, McConkey is just like, do you want the guy taking catches from Herbert, or do you want Deontay Johnson getting catches from Bryce Young? And to me, that was the choice, and it was McConkey.
That makes sense. And we also, this is another Lissism that I've often invoke, is that we put this like arbitrary line where like, hey, this guy's a 1st-round pick, this guy's a 2nd-round pick. Ladd McConkey was the 33rd, or it actually was the 32nd pick, because was this the year Miami? No, it was 33rd pick. He was the 2nd pick of the 2nd round, which, why are we drawing a line?
He's like, 1st-round extended is what he is, right? And so, but even that doesn't matter, right? There's 2nd-round, 3rd-rounders who come out of the gate and just,
but we'd be thinking about him differently if he was a 1st-round pick, is my point.
Yeah, it's arbitrary. Obviously, 32 or 33 doesn't make any difference. It just, look at the competition. I mean, they got this guy to play now. He's practicing with the starters in camp. I mean, he's their best receiver. There's nobody good there. That's the thing. It's not even like there's somebody good, but maybe McConkey's better. It's like there's like Josh Palmer is just like a generic number 3.
He's Jacoby Myers,
Darius Slayton. I mean, he's nobody, and then he can't be the one. And then Quentin Johnson's a total bust. And then DJ Shark. I mean, when has he been relevant? It's been half a decade since he was relevant. I mean, this is there, and there's no Eckler and no tight end. And Herbert, they want to run the ball, and they will, but
they're still going to throw 550 times.
They have to, and they have Justin Herbert, who's a good quarterback. So this is to me, this is like, I think McConkey should be going in like the 4th or 5th, probably.
That's interesting. And he probably will by the time that training camp comes around. And
like, why is Chris Godwin ahead of McConkey? I don't get it. I mean, to me, like things like that.
Well, guy who's done it on an NFL field at an elite level versus
last year, I had Godwin in a bunch of teams, and it wasn't much. He wasn't.
Oh yeah, no, last year because it was 2-3 touchdowns a year he's getting. But Godwin's, 2019, I think it was, finished as the wide receiver 2.
19 is pre-COVID. That was a different era. That was when you were still, not listening to somebody in a lab coat whether you could leave your house or not.
Now, Roma Dunze, pick 7 at the end of round 7. Now it's a fair ADP, and there's people that like Roma Dunze above all of, but you took basically Roma Dunze where you could have taken, say, Jordan Addison, who's having a little bit of a possible legal trouble.
Sammy Hagar's favorite player. The thing is,
very good.
He's got legal trouble, but he's got other trouble. He's got really big trouble. What's his big trouble? He's got the guy that the midwits were saying the Giants should have taken instead of Saquon Barkley. And the thing is, I actually picked Darnold in my dynasty league with like a very, very late pick, just in case, because that we're using.
He's going to start.
What if he's good? You never know, right? But
he's only 26 years old.
Right. The problem with Darnold is that it's not that he can make any throw. He's mobile. He's a good athlete. It's just that it's the consistency that's just not there. And then he'll throw the soul crushing pick without building up enough consistent performance. And so, and he's got Justin Jefferson, and now Hawkinson's ahead of schedule. He's got major competition for targets with a bad quarterback.
Good. Addison's good.
He's a good player, but Kirk Cousins was his quarterback last year. Imagine, and remember, Jefferson was out a lot last year. Imagine Jefferson's getting 160 targets, and if Hawkinson gets back at week 3 and he gets 100 targets, and you got Sam Darnold, I mean, you're talking about 110 targets from Darnold. I don't know. I mean, Odunze is probably not going to get more than that either. But
the other side of it is someone said, what if Odunze is good right away and he pushes Keenan Allen out of the way? So it's DJ Moore and Odunze are the preferred targets. It was Rome Odunze showed great chemistry with Caleb Williams. I mean, they were hugging at the draft. They were so pumped to be together. I mean,
exactly why I took him. In 1998, I bought him $500, huge stakes for that time for me, to the Hollywood League, a 16-team league, these Hollywood guys, producers, and some directors and stuff. And I picked 15th, and it was round. And I was super hungover that day. I remember I was by myself. Everyone had teams of people. And it was round 5.15. And I take Randy Moss, only because my brother had his rookie year. And my brother had watched him at Marshall and said, because my brother was in Atlanta at the time and saw some of those games. And he said, this guy is ridiculous. So I took him because we were splitting the entry fee. He said, try to get Randy Moss. So I was like, okay, I don't know when he's going to last. There's no ADP back then. So I take him. Everyone laughs, reach. 17 touchdowns his rookie year, plus 10 40-yard pass interference penalties, something insane, okay? One of the greatest receiving seasons of all time. Okay, well, the reason it was a reach was because they had Chris Carter, Hall of Famer, and they had Jake Reed, borderline Pro Bowler already, right? And Moss was the reach. But Moss was so good, it just made absolutely no difference that those guys were there. The second point about this, Odunze's top 10, overall pick, 9th pick, right? Second point about this, Caleb Williams, as you said, he's a rookie. He's not he doesn't have a rapport with DJ Moore from last year or Keenan Allen, who's also a free agent. He may connect with Odunze more. I mean, it may be that's the guy that he's most comfortable throwing to. And Odunze is like a legit big time prospect. This isn't just like some guy, Ladd McConkey's a nice prospect, but this is a top 10. This might be the top receiver in some of the drafts, in some years. So
Justin Jefferson was wide receiver 4 in his class.
Right. Exactly. And so, you bet on the talent. And I would rather hit, Addison's got a terrible quarterback. Caleb Williams is supposedly good. We don't know, he's a rookie. We'll see. But I feel like it's going to be hard to start him week 1. Okay. We're going to
Rome Odunze?
Yeah. But by week 4, it'll either be clear that was a bad pick probably, or it'll be clear that was a great pick.
I don't know if you remember, but Justin Jefferson was outproduced by KJ Osborne in week 1 and 2, his rookie year. People dropped Justin Jefferson.
Right. I mean, sometimes you just got to bet on the skills. And if you look at what was available, Jordan Addison was the other pivot. No,
you're right though, because there's things around Jordan Addison with the, the possible suspension. He could be suspended when you need him most, even if he's having a good season. And not even Sam Darnold. It's like, JJ McCarthy, the rookie quarterback they got, who knows, right? Like it's not like that's a better situation than Caleb Williams.
I mean, he had, Kirk Cousins is one of the best, probably top 5 in the league. If you're a receiver to get receiving production, look what he did for Diggs and Thielen. Kirk Cousins, he's maybe only a top 12 real life quarterback or whatever you want to say he is, but 0 running at all. So fantasy, nobody drafts him that high. But like if you just have a receiver, who do you want as your quarterback?
Right. It's like Tom Brady-ish.
Yeah, you don't want Anthony Richardson as your quarterback. You don't want Lamar Jackson as your quarterback. You want Kirk Cousins. You want Mahomes, obviously. You want CJ Stroud as your quarterback if you have a receiver. But Cousins is like top 5. So
this is why
those guys are losing Cousins. I can't draft Justin Jefferson over Jamar Chase, or I see this happening. I don't know what's going to happen with Justin Jefferson this year.
Yeah, no, this is why people are. You talked about Kirk Cousins. It's why people are so bullish on Drake London and Kyle Pitts again. If Kyle Pitts was in a similar situation last year, he would be like tight end 11. Not tight end 5 or 6. And
right.
I
got rugged by Pitts so many times.
I
don't know if I should go back, but probably
this is the year. This is the year, right? Yeah. No, I mean, if you're going to take a shot, the setup is better than it's ever been.
Oh, I mean, there's never been a setup before. I mean, these guys were literally playing with like total scrubs, like Mariota,
Heineke.
Yeah, I mean, and what's the other guy? Desmond Ridder. I mean, he's got some total scrubs.
And then
so
Arthur Smith was the drag on the offense a little
the
bit.
150 comment on London is might have trouble adjusting to competent QB play. You know, he doesn't know what that's like. He doesn't have any idea. Yeah.
So, but how about Drake London? Do you like the ADP on him? Like, you would take him over Marvin Harrison, Devontae Adams?
I have him ranked higher. I don't know. Drake London has been good with the bad QBs, and you think, okay, so he'll be really good with a good QB, and that's sort of the basic inference that you would make. But
who's the worst first round pick you can make? Is it Puka Nacua?
Well, now he just got hurt. I actually was in on Nacua completely.
Right. Even with all the good Cooper Kupp hype right now that the offense runs through him.
I mean, I think that, there was some chance Kupp relegated, Nacua to like, better than Robert Woods, but like, that sort of like 95, 1,208, but if that's sort of your downside, if Kupp somehow stays healthy and is just as good at 31, that's not bad for late first round. So I wasn't out on Nacua.
The worst first round pick, like who's the first round pick where they go and you're like, it's just not who I would take. Not the position, but just any guy in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So I think it goes in the right order pretty much. I mean, I like Jonathan Taylor, the player, but he's not going to catch that many passes. So he just has to absolutely crush on the ground,
which he can, by the way. I think
he can, but, and then, but I don't mind it at the turn, actually. Garrett Wilson, it's sort of like there's rumors the Jets are going to acquire Devontae Adams. That would definitely hurt him badly. And then Rodgers, like, he's 40 now and, like, been away from football. Like, how good is he? I don't know. But Garrett Wilson's really good. I don't know. I think the draft goes in the order it pretty much should in the first round. I could see, pushing up Jahmyr Gibbs, to that turn. I could see,
Yeah, Gibbs is the one I would push up, and then that's it. Because like from the beginning of round 2 to like the middle of round 3, it's a lot of flat tier for me. So it's like you're not getting a total premium player at the back end of the first round, but you're getting 2 super. Like you're still getting elite guys, just not super premium guys. That's again, anything happens once the season starts, and all of a sudden, there's always a player like in round 4 that ends up being round 1 value, and there's always a player around 8 that ends up being like round 3 value. So let's prediction. We'll do a little player takey stuff here. Is there anyone that goes in like that 3 to 5 range, meaning like round
Stephon Diggs? Diggs is going to be a first round pick. I mean, he is. He's going to get. He's just going to be Diggs of what you thought he was last year, and he was for half a year.
Yep. A couple other questions about your draft, your team one, for anyone looking at the board right now. I've heard you talk about that. You had a little buyer's remorse with Jonathan Brooks. The guy had his ACL, and you took him in round 8, so it's not terrible, especially in a league like this where you have a massive bench, and as long as you have coverage, which you do with the running back position.
I don't. So the irony of this was people thought, okay, you only have one receiver in the first 5 picks. You're thin at receiver, and that's going to be your problem. You have problems. But I actually like how the receivers worked out because I think McConkey is an every week starter.
Okay,
and Diggs is an elite. And then Adunze has a chance to be an every week starter. We'll see. And Sutton is a very fine fill-in.
Michael Wilson too, by the way. I think
and Michael Wilson is good. And Roman Wilson is injured, but like I'm not buying Pickens as a 160 target guy. And Wilson's going to be the guy I think that is the number 2. Yeah. Who is it? Van Jefferson there? Van Jefferson is terrible.
It's, people are, I think rightly so, trying to like the Arthur Smith factor, but that was when he was a head coach, right? Well, Arthur Smith, when he was a coordinator, there was some room for some number 2 receiver. Who was the number 2 receiver? Was AJ Brown? Corey, right? Who just skills wise?
They were both number 2s, kind of, but they both were good. Corey Davis probably had it easy with Henry and AJ Brown sort of taking the attention of the defense, But like Rashid Shaheed to me is as good as Olave. I mean, I don't. They're the same size. They're both 6 feet 175 or whatever. Rashid Shaheed is faster. Like people taking Olave in the middle of the second round. And I'm like, Rashid Shaheed is just as good as Olave. And I've got him. I've got Cortland Sutton. I've got Roman Wilson. I feel like I'm fine at receiver. I'm going to have some tough decisions, but that will work itself out. It's the running backs that I'm worried about because McCaffrey obviously gets hurt. A-Chain gets hurt. And then I've got an already injured guy. And then I've got a bunch of scrubs. I'm thin at running back. Now, everybody's thin at running back if their top 2 backs get hurt pretty much. But I erred on not getting more running back depth, actually, is how I screwed up this draft. But I don't think I screwed it up badly. Kenneth Gainwell was a bad pick. I forgot about the rookie they drafted.
Shipley.
Shipley. I forgot about him. I was like, oh, he's Barkley's backup. Barkley gets hurt, it'll be Gainwell. And then I was like, oh shit, he's like the half backup, and that's always a kind of a mistake.
It's one of those things. If Barkley goes down, it's going to be a committee, so you could probably start Gainwell anyway. You know, I mean, Shipley's not a 20 carry back.
No, but I think Shipley catches passes, so he might be. I don't know. I mean,
but
maybe
Gainwell does too.
Yeah, maybe Gainwell because he'll be the third down. You know, whatever. It's a 15th round pick. It's not like the end of the world. Right. I'm just saying that. Roshan Johnson, I was like, oh, Khalil Herbert, he might get traded. He's the number 2 for sure. I don't trust Swift to get healthy. DeAndre Soft in the thing, but now it's like Herbert's still there, and so maybe Roshan isn't even that good. So that might have been an error too. So there are 2. Yeah. I could have done better with those 2 backs. I could have got a Deneric Prince. I could have got the Giants running back, whatever his name is. There's
you talking about the Tyrone Tracy?
Tyrone Tracy. You know,
yeah.
I think that would have been a better pick. There's a couple of guys I should have got instead of Roshan and Kenneth Gainwell that are more clear number 2s, it looks like. But yeah, I mean, that's the only negative in my draft.
And 14th round pick, Michael Wilson. I think he's a true, like we use the term sleeper pretty liberally nowadays. I mean, we have forever, but he's truly a sleeper if he's going in the 4th round. If you look at the last couple games that he had when Kyler was finally like healthy, they were both like 18-point fantasy games. I mean, he's the established guy there with Kyler. So
what if Harrison goes 75, 1,001, 6 or 7, right? And he's solid as a rookie. And Michael Wilson,
80, 850 and 7.
Yeah, or 80, 1,050 and 8. I mean,
right.
Obviously Harrison, the upside and the ceiling long term is way higher. And it's obviously I'd way rather have Harrison, but like, there's not like, oh, he has to get 1,400 yards as a rookie. Like this has to be the case.
Right. The only issue there also is that Trey McBride, but like there's room for 3 and Trey McBride's still a tight end, right? At the end of it's Michael Wilson, where you're getting him. And if there's any injury time missed by any of these guys, Michael Wilson's a good player. Usually good players that finish the season strong don't go this late in draft. So I do
second year wideout. I mean, I actually, I think Kyler Murray, I want to have some shares of. I think he's set up for a good year. Like he's another year off the ACL. He just got Marvin Harrison. He's got McBride. Michael Wilson's solid. This is a good. I think he could be QB3 or something easily.
All right. Couple other things before we wrap up here. I've been trying to make these podcasts shorter. I know that they keep going longer. I tell Jeff and those guys, make the podcast 35, 40 minutes. They do better. And then somehow they just leak into an hour anyway. And, I think that's the new way. You listen to a lot of podcasts, not necessarily football, but
almost never.
You never listen to any, what kind of?
Very few. Sometimes someone sends me a specific one. I'll listen to it. I don't know. I don't have it in the car, and like if I have it on at home, I'm like doing something else. So I don't pay attention, and then I miss it. And so I'm like, I'm not going to hit play. I watch some videos of stuff, but it's mostly like financial investment stuff.
Yeah, I listen to everything.
What's going on in the world? I did watch a video. I think it was Modica was commenting on this guy's video.
Modica is a high stakes fantasy football player.
Yeah, he's a good player, and he's he's a sharp guy, and he basically pointed some video on Twitter, and I played it, and it was with this horse racing guy and this other guy, and I can't remember what the podcast is, but it was pretty good. I mean, I realized they're no different really than what I'm doing. They've got their leans, they've got their reasons, and they may be good players, but there's nothing really. I'm not learning much. I like to just check in just sometimes and say, how are the sharps, the other sharps thinking of it?
It's what do other people think of certain players matters to how you're going to, not necessarily that you like them, but you're like, oh, everyone loves, Lad McConkey this year. That means if I like him, I got to get him ahead of ADP. If I don't, right.
There's that. I mean, ADP covers that, but I also just I want to see if there's something I'm missing, right? Like I like when they like a player I don't like or hate a player I like. And I like to just hear it and say, like, what basis do they have for this, right? And the thing is, like, sometimes, like in this podcast, the two guys didn't agree on a lot of the players. And they're both like sharps, but they totally disagree. And the thing is, like, all of the sharps, if you listen to them, they do a lot of best ball and they have a lot of underdog drafts or whatever. And they'll be like, I have X% of this guy and X% of that guy.
You hate that stuff.
I don't hate it, but it's just a different, it's just a different way of doing it.
There's a whole portfolio player now, right?
Yeah. That's like most of it, right? Most of like the high stakes guys do. So they're like, oh, I've been 700 leagues. And I'm like, dude, this is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, they're best balls, so I don't have to manage them, but still. And so, but I hear them say, if this guy does really well, I'm going to be in trouble. Or, if this guy does well, I'll be in good shape. And what they're saying is, right, which is obvious, but it's not obvious to the average person listening, is I may very well be wrong about this guy, then I'm fucked. I don't think I am, because that's why I made the investments I did, but I've been very wrong in the past about a lot of my investments. So I know from history that I could be very wrong about this guy. Or they say, I'll hedge and get a little bit of this guy, or I have too much, so I'm going to say, so like, they're all uncertain, right? Like the sharpest sharps are totally uncertain if they're right. So if you have a strong lean and you hear some sharp say, oh, I don't like that guy, he sucks. I mean, if he's wrong and you come off your lean because some sharp said it, I mean, you are just defenestration territory now, right? It's like he may not see what you see, or you might be wrong, but probably it's just probability, right? And I do think, and I bought into the Circa Millions and the Circa Survivor, and I have to win those because the effort I put into it. If you heard,
those are high stakes betting contests that you can get over at Circa
Survivor, right?
Yeah.
And I realized, like, the whole sharp probability thing is just not going to work. There's too many people in the league. There's, 10,000 people in it or whatever it is. It's like, I'm not going to just incrementally edge it out by getting the best pot odds per the risk and all the shit that I do. I need to go into the fucking future and ascertain which team is going to survive, bring it back to the present, and make the pick, right? I have to.
Wait. Is your strategy going to change this year? You're not going to play pot odds?
I'm going to be aware of pot odds, but I'm just going to say that, like, even if you maximize your pot odds, right, your edge over the average normie just picking without this kind of strategy is going to be, I don't know, 20, 30, 50%, 80%. It's going to be like, instead of 1 in 10,000, you're 1 in 5,000, right? Go and, guess a number. Okay, I got a number in my head between 1 and 5,000. Guess it, Alan.
27.
3666. Okay. You missed it. Okay. So the point is, that's your odds of winning the survivor pool, even with the best pot odds strategy, right? Oh, I'm in good. I've got, I'm plus equity with my strategy. I get it. And that there's a place for that, right? But that's the midwit shit, right? I need to actually go into the future, bend space-time, figure out who's going to win. The brain is a quantum machine. It's, I was reading this, the 3-body problem. Absolutely recommend the 3-body problem, the whole series, The Dark Forest, Death's End. It's incredible sci-fi. I mean, it's fiction, but it's based on like real physics. And it's just a throwaway thing, but two of the characters, they were rewarded for building a model of the brain as a quantum machine, not a biological machine, like literally working at the quantum physics level. And we have quantum computing, and, quantum computing works in some ways by splitting into different quantum multiverses, doing calculations and bringing it back to this one. So you basically can vastly out compute a regular computer, because you're doing in all the different permutations of universes a different computation and then aggregating at the end. Well, their thesis was the brain was a quantum computer, and my brain's got to be a quantum computer. I've got to get out into these multiverses, figure out what's happening, and bring it back. I can't go the regular route. I just have to win. You don't know what I put myself through to get these contests in. If you listen to the podcast you did, it was not a joke. Okay, I was sick. I was driving. I was lost.
Was it worth it? Why couldn't you just do like I know you don't like the overseas stuff, but like
all shit. This is the real thing. And
this is the real thing. But you like
almost $10 million, and they're good for it. Okay,
yeah, of course.
So anyway, I don't know exactly how I'm going to achieve this, right? I have to break space-time, but I have to do it. I can't, this midwit thing of like, oh, I've crunched the data and the data says I've got a 62% probability. Fuck that. You're not going to win shit doing that. Okay. You're going to win your home league. You're going to win more often than not. You're going to have, if you do a portfolio thing of 10,000 leagues, you're going to cash and be plus EV over time. Dude, I'm not looking for that. I want to win the $10 million Circa prize. I'm not here. Oh, I had the plus EV, but the team just lost. The 38% probability came through instead of the 62. I'm not interested in that shit. Okay.
That's like chances to win.
Yeah. I'm not interested in that bullshit. Right. I just need to win the prize. So there's only one way to do that. And that's to go into the future, bring back the information and get it done. So I don't know, to my knowledge, there's no, method to do that yet, invented by mankind, but I'm just going to have to invent the method and fucking do it and win the whole fucking thing. And that's it. And I don't need to even know how I did it. I just need to do it. The team at Destiny did that. We got down to the 23 and then we got back into midweight conventional thinking and we lost, but we were picking teams that were like tiny favorites over big favorites and dodging. I mean, we somehow tapped into something and
you were game theorying that year though.
We were game theory, but no, you're gonna game theory. But we did shit that was contrary to the math. I started it was Jacoby Brissett had to start against the Texans. The most epic game I've ever watched. The Texans Dolphins shit game. That it was like the most dramatic. I mean, I was like living and dying in this game. It was like you could make a 3-hour opera that didn't have as much drama and emotional content as this Texans-Dolphins game for me. But really, it was a huge mistake. Like the Cowboys were 10-point favorites. We faded them. 4-point favorite, Dolphins against the Texans. The Cowboys lost. The Dolphins moved on. I mean, it was incredible. And I need to tap back into that. And again, there's no method in which to do this that's known to mankind. That's why the midwits, it's kind of like the story where they're like, well, why is the drunk looking for his keys? He lost his keys, 10 meters back, and he's looking for his keys were under the lamppost. And they said, well, you dropped them in the dark, you dropped them over there. And he says, well, I'm looking where the light is. Right. So you have all the people crunching the numbers because that's all they can do. That's the only method available to them, but it ain't going to work. It can get you some plus EV over a X amount of trials, but it's not going to win you the main event. You're going to have to go in the dark and go find it. And that's what I'm going to do.
I love it. Yeah, it's good. Follow Chris Liss. Go to realmansports.com. He has tons of premium content over there. RotoWire, right now, we do all the research for you, so you don't have to do anything. It's all in one place. RotoWire.com/try. Put in the email. Paywall unlocks for a couple days. Take a peek around. What social media? I don't even want to call them social media. What do you want people to? If they don't go to Real Man Sports, what's the best way to find everything that you're doing right now, podcast wise? Where's it all hubbed?
Okay. Well, the first thing I want, Alan, is for you to concede that my team is good and that you tried to prosecute it and the defense won the case. And my team got not only acquitted, but sued for malicious prosecution and got punitive damages as well.
Okay. Well, in all fairness, I consider myself a good arguer, but I am Golden Gloves. You are a heavyweight champion arguer. So I didn't have a chance even, if my case is correct. But I will say you did persuade me on Diggs and Stroud. So, and those were
McConkey. What about McConkey?
Yeah, well, McConkey, that's ADP. I like McConkey. Like I said, I never thought McConkey was a bad pick. If you look on the thumbnail, I checked McConkey off as a good pick. So,
I mean, this team, Rashid Shaheed is better than Chris Olave. Come on, he's a better player.
Well, okay. So one more question there before we get into the plugs. Someone challenge traded me on this. Now, they offer, this is dynasty, so long term. Okay. I had Nico Collins. They had Olave. They felt the same way you did. Olave is like, why the hell is we're going where? So we did a challenge trade. We flipped players. Now Olave 1 year younger. Do you think that that's a good bet for me, taking on Olave, giving away Nico in a dynasty league?
Nico's also second fiddle, and only and not the pedigree, and only did it 1 year.
So you like that for me, the challenge for me?
I'd rather probably have Olave. I'm joking that Shaheed is better. I mean, he might be better than Olave, but I think Olave's good. The favorite to get the targets over Shaheed.
And it's a $300 dynasty league, so it's not like it's a I forget which one this was in, but it's a normal. It's not like a $20 league or anything.
Yeah, but I don't like really either of those guys at ADP. I mean, I don't really like that back after the second round period. But I think
that was the trade. We were arguing about the two players. He goes like, "Hey, let's flip them." I said, "All right."
All right. Yeah, so that's good. Put your money where your mouth is.
So yeah, you persuaded me on a couple of things. Now the other thing I told you, it's not that I don't like your players. So it's like I didn't like your structure, because I am convinced that this year, like in my draft, my NFFC draft that I've done so far, I took I passed on Derrick Henry, who I like as RB5 this year, for Jalen Waddle, just because structurally I knew I can get running backs later that I liked. So it's not that I don't like.
I love Waddle over Henry. That's to me a no-brainer. But but I agree, and that's why I thought about CeeDee Lamb really hard as the first pick. I don't like that he's holding out. It just puts the rhythm off. But
Tyreek Hill then. Whoever I would take Amon-Ra St. Brown number 1 overall. I know you and I have had back and forth about that.
I think the stealing is a little limited, but
it's too big to fail, right? Like
no, he's going to get 1,400 and 8 touchdowns and 110 catches. I mean that's fine. I just think CD could get 120 catches, 1,800 yards, and 15 touchdowns.
Totally. I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you were nervous about CD and you wanted to take a receiver at slot 1, I'm saying the lowest you can go is Amon-Ra and still be fine.
I saw your argument for Jamar Chase at number 1, and I was thinking about it when I was drafting, because I didn't want number 1. I just was too lazy, and I forgot to move my KDS. I was jet lagged. I came back from the States, and I was like, oh, shit. And I didn't really want to take McCaffrey because, of course, he's going to get hurt the year I take him. But I just thought, you know what, like, the system is so good there. Like he gets like 5 yards of steam before they even touch him, and I just felt like, okay, like anyone can get hurt. Anybody's running backs get hurt. Don't Don't play that game. He's completely healthy now. He's not coming off an injury. I don't like
McCaffrey.
I don't like that he played into the Super Bowl last year. But I did structurally want to have a receiver. It is easier. And then A-Chain, though, was a snap call. I don't like any of those receivers at the end. I don't think they're worth better than Diggs. So I was like, I'll get A-Chain. Hopefully Diggs will be there. And
very cowardly. You didn't take Neighbors, by the way.
I wanted to take Neighbors in the third. I mean, in the
you weren't
fourth turn. Well, I didn't know, and I traded from that dynasty league that I have. I traded the Marvin Harrison pick for him.
Remember we talked about that, right?
Nick, I got Bucky Irving as my constant. Like that was I had to get that extra.
In a month from now, you're not going to be. Nobody would even make that trade. Neighbors is going to be the consensus better dynasty value.
I just think the Giant. I couldn't if you're getting the new Beckham coming in the league or whatever. So where I really structurally took a chance was when I took both Laporta and Stroud.
Both onesies. You can't do that in the end. There's smart
NFFC players. I asked Jeff this. I said, is this a cardinal sin? Some people think don't go premium tight end and QB. You got to pick. Mm-hmm. And Jeff said, no, I like it. Right. Because he's not a nutless monkey like you.
Well, I did it also. I did it with Richardson and Dalton Kincaid. Those are my.
I love Dalton Kincaid, by the way. But no, totally. I think, you know what you're getting into, right? I had to get all these. I had to get Cortland Sutton, Shaheed, Bateman, they're talking up. I don't know if he'll be, but Michael Wilson. But I had to get depth at receiver, which I did. But that's going to be a headache again, as you pointed out at the start. But you know what you're getting into. You're like, dude, I will get a premium QB, tight end, 2 of the top running backs, and in my mind, like a legit number 1 receiver. And then I will deal with this problem. You just don't want to go in not eyes open, where you're like, what do I do? You have to.
I agree with the principle of the 4-5 turn being the 2 onesie positions, tight end, QB. But I said to make it easier, I went 3 receivers and then collected my running backs that I like. But I don't know if you like Aaron Jones, so in that 5, 6, 7 range, I went Aaron Jones and Devin Singletary and those type of guys.
These. I mean, I actually kind of like Singletary, but maybe his backup's better. But remember Cam Akers and Alex Madison? You get those at 6, 7 last year.
The Mike Davis types from a couple years ago.
It's just those guys. I mean, you never know. I just think it's harder if you have 2 running backs, premium tight end and premium quarterback. You're really going to have, but I got the depth. I think it worked out, actually. I think my problem is I need a little more running back depth, and hopefully I'll find that on waivers. But structurally, I think sometimes based on where you're picking, you got to go counter structural. And I also think that just imagine if we knew that McCaffrey and A-Chain would both play 15 plus games this year.
We already talked about it.
Do you realize that the points I'm going to get out of that? And people are starting Najee Harris and shit. I mean, it's going to be Zamir White, who doesn't catch, but you're going to be starting Zamir White. You're going against A-Chain getting 14 carries and 5 catches in that off. I mean, it's going to be insane.
Yep. All right. I think we covered it all. Follow Chris Liss on what's on Nostr.
ChrisLiss.com. You can get all my stuff.
That's everything. Okay.
Nostr is where I'm posting all my real shit posts.
Okay. So ChrisLiss.com is where they get it all.
That's the easiest way to do it. And realmansports.com also.
All right. We'll see you another time with another fantasy football conspiracy podcast.
See you soon, Alan.